Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, I have that Ford Escape, the one that had the gear ratio errors. So the customer went for us replacing the transmission. So I'm not going to make a video on doing a transmission on this. I will show you some highlights and some pointers along the way. Now on this, you have to pull the cowl out, wheels off obviously, stuff like that. But let me just show you real quick what we're doing. So here the whole cowl has to come out because you need access to stuff that's inside here. You don't have to take any of this intake stuff off. It's a turbo. But yeah, the wipers come off, the cowl comes out. It's basically clips, the two wiper nuts, stuff like that. Because then you got to take the battery, air box, all that happiness has to come out. Yeah, so right here is the new transmission that's going in it. And this one has a 336 warranty on it. So just so you're aware, they give you these plastic things. These are for installing the axles. They help protect the seals. I'll be honest with you, Ford tells you to use them. I've never seen an axle seal or one of the axle seals on the tranny. I've never seen one rip, never had a problem before. But they give them to you every time you do a tranny on one of these things. But whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna pull the cowl off, all that stuff. If I run across something interesting, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go over popping axles out when I get to that point, because I've had people ask me about that. So, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay, one quick thing I wanted to show you here, and a lot of people struggle with this. Wiper arms, when you're pulling wiper arms off, let me just show you real quick. Now yes, I already got the cowl and that out. I already had the wiper arms off. A lot of times people take the nut off and then they fight with this, trying to get this off. Easy way to do this is if you grab the arm, like at the end of its first point here, and you push down like this. See that? It'll pitch it a bit. You do that a couple times, and then normally you can, I'm doing it wrong hand. You can lift it up like that. That's usually all you have to do, and it usually works very well. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, as you can see, I'm taking all this stuff apart. I'm going to cover axles when I get to that, because I've had quite a few people ask me about that. So I might have repeated myself there, I don't know. But let's get to it. All right, one thing I wanted to point out, and I've mentioned this before, but I want to point out how useful this actually is, this quick, simple tool. Draining out coolant. This is just a 3/8 piece of steel tubing, you know, for like fuel line or whatever. That and a piece of 3/8 hose, and I stuck it right there. And I mean, it's perfect because it helps guide the coolant when you're draining it out. So, because on this I got to drain the coolant out to do what I got to do, change the transmission. But something this simple really comes in handy. And I've had this thing for a long time. I put my name on it purposely, so this way I keep it in my toolbox. And in case I drop it somewhere or I leave it somewhere, you know, people don't sit there and say, oh, this is trash, and throw it out, because honestly it kind of looks like trash, but it's not. Now, one other thing I wanted to point out here, whenever you have a ball joint like this, be it an upper or a lower control arm, where you have a bolt that goes through, when you go back together, when you go to install it back together, you don't have to tighten this up so it pinches together. There is a torque spec, like on every single bolt on the car. You want to try to make sure that you get it close to that. These things get tight. You don't have to over tighten them. If you tighten it down to where that comes together, the bolt, instead of being straight, will do this. So now the bolt has a bend in it. I've seen the people do that, and a bolt breaks and a bolt joint separates. In the very beginning, when I first started doing this for a living, I did that. I did that on a car, on an upper bolt joint. I don't remember what it was. But I over tightened the bolt. Customer went down the road. A week or so later, the bolt snapped. Bolt joint separated. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, huh, I know I put the bolt in there. So I put it all back together, I put the bolt in, and I go to tighten it up, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, idiot. You don't have to make it that damn tight. Made it that tight, so the bolt went like from this to this. Because as that clevis closes, the holes get off center. So that's what created the problem. So I've heard of it happening to other people too. Obviously I can't be the only one, but I'll admit I did it. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure you tighten them, don't over tighten them. Could wind up with a really big problem. So let me get the rest of that apart. Then I'm going to explain a little bit about axles. Now on these kind of ball joints, I've seen a lot of people have a lot of problems on them. One thing you want to do, get a chain, do this once you get the bolt out. Basically you loop it like this with a bolt or something. You don't have to necessarily have the bolt here, it could be anywhere, but as long as you have something to lock it here, be it the chain going the other way, whatever, doesn't matter. You want it like this. This has already been apart because somebody's changed this axle not too long ago. So I'm not too worried about this not moving, but you never know. Sometimes you got to get a chisel in there and spread that clevis apart a little bit. But let me show you what you do here. I'm going to step back a little bit. Actually, let me go from this side. It might be helpful because the way the lighting is. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. Yeah, so the 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. So let's try this, and let me show you what you do with the pry bar. And this doesn't work every time, but it does work a lot. See that? And now it's separated. Now you have a pull point here, because a lot of people will sit there and try to wedge a pry bar in between, and it becomes a nightmare. Especially up north vehicles, you got to deal with rust and stuff like that, so that could really be a pain in the neck. But this works very well doing this. So, as you saw, I didn't try it before, I just tried it now, and it worked perfectly. The other side will probably fight me a little bit. And also, on the other side, it still has this guard piece here, which I, for the life of me, have never understood why Ford does that. It's a little spring pin piece of metal. As you see, it's missing on the other side. It's going to be missing on this side shortly. So let me show you how you mess with those things. Okay, so since this side wasn't disturbed, honestly, all I really do is I take this thing and I push it off to the side, like so. That gets discarded anyway. I push that over like so, and so now I'm going to try the chain trick, but since this has never been apart, this side might fight me more. Alright, so let's try this. Like I said, it might fight me, so let's find out. And if you could see, I go to the pivot point of the lower control arm. Okay, that one wasn't too bad, it popped. This, that becomes an MDI, mechanic delete item. And I know some of you are going to throw a fit over that I take that thing out. Like I said, it's already missing on that side. I've seen a bunch of Fords come through from the dealer where they've worked on it and they're never put back. Ford is the only one that does that on this type of control arm, and millions of cars out there with this type of control arm. They don't have that. What is the point of it? It makes no sense. Is it a dust cover? Because it's got holes in it. I don't know. I don't get it. The ball joint ain't going nowhere. It's got that groove in it for the bolt to hang on to, so definitely not a safety issue. I have no idea what it's for. Whatever. It's not going back. It was missing on the other side. Okay, so now with the ball joint separated with the knuckle out of the way, what I do is, as you see, I put a ratchet strap through the hole there and I attach it to the lift. You could do this with a ratchet strap to the back wheel. If you're doing this in your driveway, you can go to the suspension somewhere. You can go to the frame with a ratchet strap, doesn't matter. You could do something, pull this thing out of the way. This way you're clear. Now, for some reason, a lot of people have problems with this too, getting the axle out. Let me get a tripod here real quick. Now this is reasonably simple, but a lot of people have a problem with this for some reason. To get the axle off of there, you're going to go in between the case and the actual inner joint right there, and pop, it pops. If for some reason it doesn't pop, you may want to rotate it, because as I explained in that one video, where that clip is, if the clip is not hanging out with the opening towards the top, or say from the 3 o'clock to the, or from the 9 o'clock to the 3 o'clock position, if the opening's not in that, somewhere in that vicinity, a lot of times the axle can jam up and not want to come out. If that happens where it doesn't want to pop reasonably easy, try pushing it back in as far as it'll go. Rotate it maybe a quarter of a turn and try again, because a lot of times that'll settle the clip. And then you re-hit it with the, or re-strike it with the pry bar, you know, give it a quick jab, and it should pop. I mean, it's relatively simple. So, same thing on the other side. All right, so there we go, the trans is out. Not a terrible ordeal actually pulling it out. There's a few things that are kind of a pain. But anyway, this video was not in regards to pulling a transmission out. This was just a video on a couple of helpful tips for like the axles and the ball joints and stuff like that. That's all it really was. So I wanted to show you that. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up with this. All right, hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. If you look down in the description, you'll notice links to Amazon products that I do use, and the lights are gonna be there on that first, on that first line there. These lights here, I love these things. They work fantastic. Like I said, I bought those off the Matco truck, but you can get them from Amazon. Like I said, the link will be there. So, all right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.